first of all, welcome to WeTalk New York. This is our second ever installment of this show, and it's such an honor and privilege to be here. I want to thank our partner Dell for supporting these incredibly important conversations and providing the technology that allows filmmakers like us and editors and women, creators of all kinds to do their work. And I love the Roxy. I have to say thank you to the Roxy Cinema and the Roxy Hotel. So without further ado, I'm Ondi. I'm a filmmaker, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm a talk show host on the side. And I decided to start this show to look at some of the women that are shaping our culture, some of the greatest women driving the conversations that are happening around us today. I'm going to start with you, right in the middle. Christy Havranek is a digital media and photography professional with 18 years of experience, and as the photo director of the Huffington Post, she works with edit, finance, production. She hires and oversees the hiring of all of the photographers and has made a especially big push to put women behind the lens. And you also recently spearheaded an audiogram product at a hackathon that was instantly changed the game for the HuffPo.
Yeah, we had a huge hackathon that was spearheaded by our product team. And one of the things that I and some folks on my team and the multimedia team, we needed a solution that was not photography, but not a video. So what was it? So it was an audiogram. So you can get the experience of audio and you can get the experience of photography at the same time without it necessarily being a video. And those are anywhere from, 15 seconds to a minute, depending on how long the audio clip is, but typically they tend to work best on the shorter side.
Wow. And then quickly about what we're looking at here, is this a photograph by one of your women photographers?
Yes, so this was shot by Dorothy Hong. She's a New York-based photographer. She's fantastic. And this is Jennifer Hyman. She's the CEO of Rent the Runway. And this story was written by Emily Peck and edited by Sam Story. And when we were talking about the best way to conceive of the shoot, we wanted to, and this was Sam's idea, I'm going to give her the full credit, to really flip the way that male CEOs are photographed. They always have like a power stance or like a arms crossed. And it's boring, right? And it's tired and it's the same kind of thing. But we wanted to try and flip that and use Jennifer and her adorable baby. And so we've got a couple images in the shoot where she's just in the middle of Brooklyn Street with her stroller and her baby. And I mean, she's a force to be reckoned with.
Wow. And you mentioned to me on our phone call that for the march recently.
Yes.
You also managed to get women on the project. What changed? What changed in the images?
I think anytime there's a woman behind the camera, behind the lens, just like with anything, that informs how you see, and your life experience informs how you see. For the march, I honestly can't speak to that specifically, but I can speak a little bit more broadly, just about that topic. With the other story that I sent over to you about Monster Energy beverage company and a huge story that HuffPost broke, it only made sense to hire a female photographer to meet with and cover and photograph these women who had suffered horrible experiences at the hands of some of the men at Monster Energy, and they were just trying to go to work and do their jobs. And I think there's just kind of, with women, maybe this is kind of lame or cliche, but I think there's an inherent empathy that I think women have. And when you put women in a position of power, in any position of power, things are just different. And it's really important that these voices are heard and those perspectives are seen.
That's awesome. And I'm so glad that you're in the position of power to be able to start redirecting the story and the visuals for the story. And we're going to talk more, but I'm moving on to Alisha for a second. Alisha Reiner, you probably know her from Orange is the New Black, which is one of my favorite shows. I was absolutely thrilled to be on the jury with her here at Tribeca. We instantly were off to the races. So Alisha plays a pretty hardcore woman named Fig. She's actually a lot nicer than that woman, but did win a SAG award for that fabulous ensemble cast, and is currently in production on season 6. True?
Yeah, we just wrapped season 6.
Okay, just wrapped season 6. It's so hard to keep up with bios, isn't
I
it?
know.
Bios, especially if you're active, they change all the time. Her motherhood dark comedic feature Egg, which she produced and stars in, premiered here at Tribeca just a couple of days ago, and I've heard incredible things. And we actually have a clip I'll show you. But first of all, it's directed by women with all female heads of departments and primarily a female crew. And this isn't her first rodeo. She also produced and starred in the first female-driven Wall Street feature film Equity with Anna Gunn, a project with a woman, screenwriter and director. And as a producer, she's committed to making films that have strong and complex female characters and for hiring predominantly female heads, department heads and crews. It changes the game. I had an all-woman camera crew for Mapplethorpe and Nancy Schreiber.
Nancy, yeah.
Yeah, Nancy was incredible, and it's just so wonderful to collaborate with other women. And then I just have to keep going about you because it's amazing. You're passionately committed to protecting the environment as well, and have developed an eco-friendly fashion line as well, and an ethical fashion line that hires formerly incarcerated women. That just throws it over the top for me. So yeah. So before I get into anything, what would you want to just, if you want to frame up this clip, or should we roll it for Egg?
I think we can probably just
Let's
roll
roll it.
It speaks for itself.
All right, let's roll this clip.
I think tons of women would love to do what I'm doing. They're just not ballsy enough to do it.
And you're ballsy enough.
If government and businesses are going to devalue women's work and make motherhood economically unfeasible, why not outsource it until they make it worth our whiles to keep babies in their own mother's wombs?
Yes. Yes. You see, this is why people hate liberals.
See, that speaks for itself, right? That sort of says exactly what it's meant to say.
What is going on?
So in the film, Christina Hendricks and I play best friends from art school who haven't seen each other in a long time. She's 8.5 months pregnant in the film and is about to give birth shortly. And it's quite complex what's really happening underneath, but ostensibly in this scene, I am having a baby with a surrogate. And and sort of doing it as an art piece.
More to say and more.
Yeah,
Let's,
you got to see the movie, but
Yeah.
that's the short version.
and just one quick question about Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
So many women, right? So many women of all kinds, nice and naughty, and in between.
You know, it's interesting. I hadn't thought about this till this moment. Like when we talk about images of women, one of my favorite things about working on that show is you have such diversity of image of women, so many different body sizes, so much diversity of human in every way possible, including, you know, our first starring transgendered person. And I feel so proud to be, you know, part of that. And we had no idea when we first started what that would be.
How that would liberate the audience.
Yeah. And I think there was a freedom in working on Netflix, both because they really allow the filmmaker a lot of freedom, and then additionally, I think because we felt like no one was really watching in the beginning, you know, and it's an interesting thing when you're an actor and you don't feel like anyone's watching, and you can be a little bit more gutsy because you're like, well, I don't know if anyone's actually going to see this. So, you know, like I'll actually cry and have like actual snot coming out of my nose and like feel gross and be okay with it.
And that's the thing about that show is everything's hanging out. It's a bunch of women living on top of each other in a jail.
And I also want to say I'm on another show that I want to give a what to because it's a female filmmaker. I'm on a show called Better Things where it's a female. Pamela Adlon writes, directs, stars, and produces it. She's amazing.
Which is Genji.
They're both amazing women, and they both hire a lot of women, and they both portray women in ways that we don't usually see them. And in both cases, I get to play very different characters on the two shows, but it is such a gift to be part of those ensembles and be part of these women changing how we see women. And I think that's, they both inspired me to make Egg.
Okay, and are you wearing anything from the clothing line?
No, I didn't know you were going to mention the clothing line. I would have worn one of
We
our
all need to
signature
know.
pieces.
Everybody's going to get a link, hopefully. Okay, Andrea to my right, Andrea Nevins, who I've been lucky enough to call a friend for quite a while, is an award-winning, multi-award-winning filmmaker who was actually on my show, Bring Your Own Doc, documentary filmmaker whose movie is actually sort of fit the theme of the panel so well. Tiny Shoulders Rethinking Barbie, which is yet to bow here at
Right,
Tribeca. It's
Wednesday.
tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow.
That would be tomorrow.
That would be tomorrow.
Yay. A little bit of background. Academy Award nominated, Emmy-winning director. Andrea, her interests live in the transition, inspired by previous documentaries. Like, she likes to look at change and the way things change over time. And that's what happens with Barbie. Mattel is forced to change their tune. I feel like Barbie is such a strange, well, we'll talk about it. Anyway, I digress. Documentary is Still Kicking, The Other F Word, and Play It Forward, which premiered at Tribeca in 2015. Your work's been featured on HBO and Netflix and soon on Hulu. That's where this movie will premiere. You hearing problems from ear infections and struggling with dyslexia as a child. You credit those things with heightening
How
your
that's stated in
sense.
Wikipedia, I don't know, but yes, it's true.
Because I thought it was fascinating. These people have such long bios, so I just kind of choose things I think are most fascinating. But you struggled as a child with dyslexia, and you kind of credit that for heightening your sense of vision and probably your sense of empathy for people.
I think for sure my sense of empathy. My mother's right here. She caught my dyslexia very early and
We have
pushed me through so that I could be sitting here today, stringing a sentence together. I hope somewhat eloquently.
So far, so
Thank
good.
you, Mom.
If you derail, we're right here.
Okay.
Christy and I got you.
We're good.
Anyway, this documentary takes a retrospective look. Tiny Shoulders takes a retrospective look at Barbie's unexpected origins to becoming the most popular doll ever created, as well as a fashion icon, and then a target for feminists, and how that changed. And also looks at 60 years of women in pop culture through the Barbie frame, from Gloria Steinem to Roxana Gay and Peggy Orenstein, as well as Mattel insiders. So without further ado, let's play the trailer. We can talk about it.
Okay.
Could Barbie ever have been uncontroversial? I don't think so, because for the past 50 years, femininity has been a contested space.
In the past, dolls had all been baby dolls. They had all been about teaching little girls how to nurture. Barbie was a wildly revolutionary toy.
Barbie became things that real women hadn't become. She had broken barriers.
These dolls enable girls to tell stories about dreams.
She's been around 55 years, but the last few years have been trying for Barbie.
Barbie was everything we didn't want to be, and we're being told to be.
Some people think Barbie needs to be liberated.
You look at television and film and music, and you see the same body type being idealized.
Perception on Barbie is that she's vapid, materialistic, she's not healthy for girls.
This limited understanding of who girls are is not acceptable.
We have to make such a drastic shift to get people to care about Barbie.
The overall problem is being judged by our outsides, not our insides.
It starts with just changing the ideals that we set forward as what a normal body looks like.
Feminism and how a girl sees herself and self-esteem for girls. To put that all on the tiny plastic shoulders of a doll is quite a burden.
I don't think I've ever been involved with something as culturally significant as this.
We're taking a really big step forward.
I don't want Barbie to be history.
You're going to do great.
I hope so.
That's incredible. I mean, it's such a great way to look at the beauty myth and the singularity of the beauty myth, right? I mean, Barbie embodied it all. how do we deal with that? How do we deal with that changing? And what did you learn from making this?
Well, I learned a few things. I think I've been sort of toying with this idea that now that women have a little bit more power than we did, say, in 1959 when the doll was invented, we have, and because of work that you're doing and because of the work that you're doing, we've got a little bit more say than we ever have before about how we look and how we're portrayed. And I think that the strong group of women who were working at Mattel as this was going on were saying, we no longer have to be this one very white, stereotypical version of female. That is a woman through a male gaze. We can now take on that gaze ourselves and look at what we want to be portrayed at as women. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's where they were. I'm not sure that's how they would articulate it, but I think that's where they were.
And that yielded a curvy Barbie?
It yielded a curvy Barbie, and she has, I think, 20 different skin tones and 20 different versions of her hair. So she really is much more representative of women that you see on the street.
In watching your film, one of the things that really shocked me was the idea of people buying a Barbie that was sold with a scale that was set to 110. Can you imagine?
And that was what was in the dominant culture. So
When
we
was that? What year was
that was
that?
1963, and we went and looked at what the advertising was of the day, and it was nothing but, here's a diet so you can get your man, right? Or here's a diet soda because you want men to be looking at you, and they're not going to look at you unless you are a very slim 110 and 5'6".
Yeah, you do a great job with those ads and seeing those commercials and really contextualizing what it was. It was just, it really, Barbie wasn't necessarily driving the culture, but a reflection of the culture, it seems.
Precisely. And I think it was push me, pull you, but I think that she
There is
was...
a book, the diet book and the Get the Man book under both arms. Like, these are my books I'm going to go study now.
On one side it says how to lose weight. On the other side it says don't eat. Right?
Luckily, I liked stuffed animals myself. But anyway, Alysia, you wanted to say something?
No, I have not been 110 pounds since I was like in 5th grade, I think.
Thank goodness.
I will say, did anyone read the Amanda Hess article today? Raise your hand if you did. There was an article in the Times today about I Feel Pretty, Amy Schumer's new film. And one of the things I loved that it talked about was, here's this message that's fantastic of letting go of how people think of you and like thinking of yourself as awesome no matter what, right? Amazing message. But she also brought up, like, we can't take society off the hook because you can think that you're awesome, but really this is a deep, ingrained societal belief that was true in 1963 and is true now. And it's sort of a lie to ourselves to say it's not true now, and now we really are believing in that it's really the inside that counts. I think it's sort of deeper in. It's like it's more unconscious.
And it's just not true. I mean, unfortunately, it's not true. As women, we feel we need to look good, especially if we're in jobs like we have. You know, which even as a doc filmmaker, which I've been most of my life until like 2 days ago, and
me too, all my life.
Have been, and I will continue to make documentaries. Let's not make any bones about that. But we're the people that can kind of sneak around and maybe not be on camera as much as you, Alysia, or you, Christy. You know, you're behind the scenes too. It still matters. It still matters. We still end up on things like this, and we still get makeup done. And then
wear uncomfortable clothing and put on high heels.
And wear high heels and things like that. I mean, I hear this year no makeup is the new makeup, but here we are. Christy's the only one waving that flag today. Maybe a little on.
Oh, mascara.
Okay, see?
And foundation, actually.
Because we like looking good.
You know.
So
it's hard. It's really hard.
That's the thing. Like, how do we hold on to our femininity as feminists?
I think that's a super big question, and how do we redefine it for ourselves when it's not about attracting a male who will support us? When we're supporting ourselves, we no longer need to be doing that. and yet we still do. And that really is a big question that I have, and a big question that I had going into Barbie. Am I attracted to her because I'm attracted to pretty things? Am I attracted to her because I love the transformational aspect of clothing and dressing? I do. It's very fun. Am I doing it just for men? I don't think I am anymore at my age. I don't think I am. I think I'm doing it because it's, for me and because it's fun. I think, but I don't know entirely.
But you got a man.
I have a man, right? So I'm not doing it for that reason. But the question is like, do I want to dress in the morning? Is it only for me, or is it for a societal regulation that still exists?
Well, the fashion industry thanks you.
True that.
That would be the end of that. But you
No, I was just going to say, for me, fashion is wearable art, and it's beautiful, and it's an exquisite way of expressing oneself. And it is also, it can, just like art can be political, one of my favorite new, I guess, brands would be Lingua Franca, that has message on it, and it's beautiful, and it's comfortable, and it has message on it.
I almost wore, I had them made a tiny shoulders sweater, and I almost wore it, and I was going to say, and I'll say it now, I was going to use my own breasts to advertise as opposed to somebody else using women's breasts to advertise.
Speaking of breasts, I mean, I remember.
Let's go for it. Let's go for it.
No, but speaking of breasts, I remember when I gave birth to my son. He was 11 weeks old when we won Sundance for Dig. So I went around the world suddenly on this merry-go-round around festivals, breastfeeding all over the place on the streets. And everywhere. And I remember wearing a button-down shirt on Late Night with Carson Daly, which I regret. The vain side of me still was like, wow, that looks terrible. It was like this Western shirt because I felt like I couldn't lift up my breasts. But then eventually I just gave up and just started breastfeeding everywhere. And for other women, it meant so much back then. It's like 14 years ago now. To see a working mother breastfeeding and walking around and popping my baby off the breast, doing a Q&A and back on the breast, And so this kind of thing, I think, is where we have to land, right? We need to start showing, to come to a conclusion here that's positive and that is maybe productive, we need more images that are real, right? That's what we need. We can still all try to look great and be feminists still, and we all want to look good and feel good and wear art, but we need to know that it's okay. You can run a company and have a baby, and you can make a film and have a baby, and so, I don't know if anybody wants to contribute to that, but, how do we turn this Me Too, Time's Up, fair pay, it's been a great year for women, let's just say. I think it's been phenomenal, but we need to push the conversation to we do, right? We are running things. We're running this place. We've always run this place.
I love we do. That's really good.
And I think we need to change some laws so that we can have children. I think we need equal pay so that we can have children.
And longer maternity leave.
And longer maternity leave and paternity leave. We need some changes.
We need to look to Europe. Why are they always ahead? Yes, please, Christy.
Oh, sorry. One thing I wanted to mention was that I think, in light of everything that's happened with Me Too, with Time's Up, we're at a point now where it is, I think, inexcusable to ignore the disparities we have with pay, with representation, with power, with who's given opportunities. And I think things like this are the perfect way to get people to understand that there are people doing a lot of really hard work. We may not be on the cover of magazines necessarily. Maybe you are. I'm definitely not on the cover of a magazine. But there are a lot of women in the photo industry, in the film industry, editorial, publishing, everywhere, making massive decisions about how things are represented, how women are represented. And I think we're at a point now where we can't turn back. We can't, that's it. We're at a point.
Time is up.
Yeah. And time's up. But I will say, to your point, I think law has to change, without a doubt. And we make choices on a daily basis as human beings. And every time you hire someone, you're making a choice. Every time you buy anything, you're making a choice. Like, find out who's making your wine. Choose the female winemaker. Like, find out who's making your clothes. Choose the female, clothing designer. It's really becoming aware of our choices, and sometimes it's really hard. It's, for me, I went outside the system on when I'm producing, I'm outside the system, so I don't have a studio to answer to. And I've been in rooms when those studios say, well, that person doesn't have as much experience because they haven't been given the opportunity. So for me, for example, on our film, we hired a brilliant DP who had never shot a feature. She's going to shoot hundreds more now, but she had never shot a feature because no one gave her the opportunity, even though she was so qualified. And that's the kind of thing that we have to do now, because the laws will take a while. So that's the kind of thing each person in this room can do, is think about every choice you make, at whether you're hiring, whether you're buying, whether it's helping a young woman who doesn't have the opportunity you have, bring her to an event. Like, there's ways to help women, to mentor women, to change things in ways that are shorter than the law, because sometimes that takes some time.
Yeah, this show, WeTalk, is here to change the culture and even nudge it along. Thank you so much.
Thank you.